They chant like a cult of corporate sirens, luring authors to Burnout Island. Hello, and welcome back to the chaotic channel where we speak the truth even when it's uncomfortable. We sprinkle it with a little sass, of course, and we deliver it with the righteous frustration of a reader who paid £17.99 for a book that clearly needed 6 more drafts. You guys can see where I'm going. Yeah, today's truth is really going to sting for authors probably because I'm tired. I am tired of reading undercooked, half-baked, prematurely launched books that feel like they were slapped together during a chaotic 6-week NaNoWriMo sprint and sent to print because an agent somewhere said, "Quick, strike while the algorithm's hot." Oh, goodness. Today's topic, we're going there. Authors, you are rushing your books and it is showing. And no, this isn't just about debut authors. No, this is not just indie. No, this is not just trad. This is the entire industry. From self-published TikTok darlings trying to maintain their monthly releases to big 5 authors being shoved through the pipeline like overworked interns in a failing startup. This is not an attack, This is a literary intervention. Yeah, I'm not here to shame anyone hustling their heart out. I'm just here to say that the current pressure cooker environment of publishing, self-publishing, and even BookTok culture is churning out these undercooked books like it's a Weatherspoon's microwave shift. And we are the ones gagging on the half-baked prose. So, yeah, let's talk about it. You wouldn't expect us to eat undercooked steak, would you? So don't expect us to consume and really struggle to digest an undercooked book. Please. Here's the tea, yeah? Publishing used to be slow. Like glacial. Your debut could take 3 to 5 years to get picked up, then another 1 to 2 years to be published. Yeah, there were developmental edits, there were copy edits, there were rounds of beta reading, actual strategy, Now, book deals are announced and a few months later, it's on shelves. Some authors are dropping books every 6 months because their contract demands it. Self-publication? Even worse. There's this pressure to publish fast to stay relevant on Kindle Unlimited or to game Amazon's algorithm. Some authors, they release full trilogies in a year. I have seen this, guys. Publishing has become a speed sport. Now, I know that some people, they had their books written for ages, and now with the accessibility of self-publishing, through Kindle Unlimited, they are now just publishing it all at once. But some of y'all, it's very clear that no, you wrote all of this in 1 year. You 100% did, maybe even 3 months. Pop. It's very clear for some of you, And according to a 2023 Wired article, publishers are increasingly pushing authors to deliver new work every 12 to 18 months, especially if their first book had even the smallest viral moment. We need to capitalize on momentum, they'll say. Keep readers engaged, they say. Don't lose the wave, they chant like a cult of corporate sirens, luring authors to Burnout Island. And then you get a book that reads like a glorified Wattpad draft. Because the author was being hounded for the next installment before the first one had even hit the shelves. The result? A book that is mediocre. Writing that is mediocre. Plot holes the size of Jupiter itself. Characters with the emotional depth of a teaspoon. And readers going, huh? This wasn't as good as the first one. Gee, I wonder why. But let me be clear. Speed does not equal mastery, yeah? Output does not equal legacy. Just because you have 1,000 books out there does not mean you're going to have a good legacy or legacy at all. Yeah. You are not James Patterson. And even James Patterson isn't James Patterson. He has like 12 co-writers and possibly a cloning lab. Come on now. Let's not follow that example, please. Now, let's talk symptoms. Okay? You pick up a book and you instantly know because the plot had promise but no depth. The pacing is actually wild, rushing the climax like it's late for the last train. The characters, they won't be people. They're placeholders for Pinterest aesthetics. And you guys know how I feel about it. The grammar? Oh, baby! Did the editor fall asleep? Did you even have one? Oh, and no, I'm not talking about small typos. I'm talking about structural rot. Whole chapters that serve no purpose. Dialogue that sounds like it was lifted from a Wattpad first draft. Let's be honest here, okay? We've all read that series where book one was, okay, yeah, absolutely ate and left no crumbs. And then book two comes out 6 months later, and you're sitting there with whiplash asking, who are these people? Who are these characters? Why is the pacing so weird? Why does it feel like I'm reading a 200K filler episode? Yeah. The first book had substance, you know? The second one felt like the ghost of a plot whispering through a TikTok dance. And I say this as someone who wants to love books, you know? I want to love every single book I come across. But authors, your stories deserve time. These characters you've dreamed about for years, they deserve proper development. Especially your fans, we grew to love them in the first book. And then what happened in the second? Yeah. We as well, we your readers, we deserve care, I would say. We do. So don't rush gold into tin just to meet a publishing quota. And let me just say, many of those authors are talented. You know, the ones with interesting, questionable second books, you know? They're passionate. The ideas are iconic, but the execution needed a bit of time. Maybe a lot more time. They needed space, okay? They needed space. But the market doesn't allow for that anymore, and that's the tragedy. Because when a book flops, it's not the algorithm that gets blamed, it's the author. But it's the algorithm's fault, and us for rushing. Now, we can't avoid the elephant in the room, okay? BookTok. I always have to bring it up because it's so integral to the publishing space right now. BookTok has changed everything, and as I always say, not always for the better. TikTok has created this strange machine where the second a debut book goes viral, the author is suddenly a brand, a creator, a marketing funnel. And they are expected to keep churning content, spin-offs, prequels, bonus epilogues, novellas, the villain's perspective, limited edition collector covers, annotated copies with exclusive papyrus ink. Okay, maybe not that, but you get the point. A lot is expected. And let's be honest, authors are now told to write not just with their hearts or their craft, but with their content strategy in mind. They'll be told, write a spicy scene you can use as an excerpt on TikTok, you know, something you can make a reel with. Put in a villain arc so people can stitch it, yeah? Oh, and on a cliffhanger so you can hype book 2 before book 1 even launches. That'll get sales, yeah. We're not writing stories anymore, guys. We're building marketing pipelines, and this is why stories suck, you know? Because you feel it in the text. The pacing reads like a social media feed, something dramatic every few pages, because God forbid a reader feels anything gently, you know, softly. And meanwhile, the authors, oh, they're burnt out. They're anxious about flopping. They're writing their second book while touring for their first. They're revising while doing launch events and being told to build their platform 24/7. I've said it before and I'll say it again. It is not sustainable, you know? And it's killing their debut careers 100%. It is creative violence disguised as marketing strategy, and we're the ones reading the corpses of what could have been brilliant stories. And look, I get the excitement. We all want our favorite authors to thrive. We all want the next book in a series that we loved from the first page. But at what cost, you know? And let's pause here for my debut authors. Because I see, guys, I see y'all, you know? You finally break through, you get the book deal, you get the buzz, your dream is coming true. But guess what? Now you're on a deadline. Your debut is still cooking and you're being asked to deliver your second book before the first one is even fully edited. And here's the kicker. Your second book is expected to match or outperform your debut. And that could happen if you were given time. But you know what happens? You rush. because you're made to. You're afraid to try something new. You rewrite your debut in a different font, essentially. You self-censor, you burn out, and then the reviews come in and they're like, this feels messy, this feels incomplete. And now you're a one-hit wonder, not because you're not talented, but because the system didn't give you a chance to breathe. There's a quote from Publishers Weekly that says, "The pressure to follow up a breakout debut with something equally impressive has paralyzed many authors creatively and structurally." And we don't talk about that quote enough. And I think we need to. Let's not pretend traditional publishing is immune. In fact, they invented this machine. Editors are underpaid and overworked. Marketing teams are stretched so thin they're practically invisible. Everyone is being told to chase trends, whether or not the author's book even fits in. Enemies to lovers? Add it. Forced proximity? Shove it in there. Magical school? You've got 3 days to invent one. We're watching art be contorted into algorithmic bait. And this is the kind of short-term thinking that will cannibalize the industry. If you're an editor or an agent watching this, here's a cheeky little reminder for you. You guys are the gatekeepers, you know? You're supposed to advocate for your authors. You're not meant to be turning them into content machines. Your job is not just to sell books, it's to shepherd stories. Please do your job. I'm not even trying to be mean. I'm really just feeling bad for the industry and what it's becoming, you know? And before the indie girlies come for me, let's talk about you two. I see you posting 3 books a year, 2 novellas, and a coloring book companion, you know? I see your Canva fatigue, your burnout tweets disguised as memes, your mental health post sandwiched between pre-order links. Sis, bro, my G. Breathe. You do not have to drop a book every quarter to be successful. In fact, the authors with long-term staying power, they tend to slow down, you know? They level up and they refine. A fast release does not guarantee a lasting career. Also, readers are catching on, you know, if they've not already. That's why reviews for some of these hyped books are looking real suspicious. People are saying it without saying it. It was okay, but it felt rushed. I loved the idea, but wished it went deeper. The pacing was a bit uneven. Translation? This needed time in the creative oven. And you know what book stood the test of time? The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. I haven't read that, but I know about it, and it's on my list, of course. And I know that that book took 14 years to cook. The Lord of the Rings, it took Tolkien 12 years. Is rich, layered, and unrelentingly bold because it wasn't written to trend. Toni Morrison, I'm told, edited like a literary surgeon, you know? And C.S. Lewis literally had spiritual crises and philosophical debates written into the screw tape letters. These were books that were stewed, not scrambled. And do you think those authors could have written that brilliance in a 90-day sprint between newsletter deadlines and TikTok lives? And let's tie this to the bigger conversation around integrity, you know? The Britt Andrews Kickstarter scandal showed us what happens when the market pressure of content creation and influencer culture meets unchecked greed. The project raised $95,000, as we know. People were excited, promises were made, and then refunds were refused, updates were vague, and readers were left holding the bag. And this is what happens when publishing becomes a performance. It ceases to be about storytelling and becomes about audience retention, optics, and selling vibes and special editions instead of value, you know? And we don't want another situation like that. We might have one, but we don't need one. And see, this is me as a reader and creator, and yes, even a writer, saying you are allowed to slow down. You deserve rest. You deserve time to create. Your story deserves patience, and your readers deserve your best, not your quickest. So to my writers, I'm just saying one thing. We are not asking for perfection, but we are asking for care. Genuinely, stop rushing because you're afraid of being forgotten. Stop publishing sequels because you feel pressured by early hype. Stop writing to appease algorithms. Stop letting marketing teams dictate your plot arcs, Stop forcing a story that clearly needs time. Write with intention. Writing is your craft. So love it and do it well. A masterpiece takes time. And if you need to take a year, 2 years, 5 years, do it, because we will be right here, ready, hungry, and willing to give your book the attention it deserves. We will wait. I've been waiting for certain books for years. If we look at A Song of Ice and Fire, Game of Thrones, that last book, some people have lost hope, but the fans, they're still waiting. They're still waiting. With all of their heart, they're still waiting, We will wait. Just don't insult us with half-formed first drafts because you felt pressured to post a cover reveal every other month. You are not disappointing your audience by giving them quality later. You are disappointing them by giving them quantity now. There's a difference between hustling and hemorrhaging, between building a career and burning yourself alive on the altar of relevance. Protect the work and the work will protect you, okay? So this is me saying that we need a literary slow movement, a revolution of stillness, if you will. We need publishers to allow more time in contracts. If anyone's in publishing, listen well, yeah? More time in contracts, yeah? Self-published authors, we need you guys to stop obsessing over algorithm churn, okay? And readers, we need you to stop demanding sequels before the first book is even out. Yeah. And for someone like me, a creator, a booktuber, a reviewer, yeah, us too, we need to be honest, but kind about what rush books actually feel like. And most of all of us, we need authors to believe their worth isn't tied to output. It's not. Okay. Yeah, I know that was a lot. I've said quite a lot, but I definitely think it has to be said. If you're an author watching this, considering this your tough love pep talk, because I don't even think it was that tough, I don't think it was that tough. And if you're a reader, let's keep demanding better, but let's also reward the authors who take their time. Let's honor the art of storytelling again. That's all I'm saying, Let's not accept rushed and marketable as the new standard, because we deserve better. And so do the stories waiting to be told. They deserve better. So write the book, then let it sit, then edit, then write it again, then get a new editor and a therapist, reread it and write it better. Your best book is still inside you, most likely, but you won't find it if you're sprinting toward burnout, So take your time and 100% tell me, have you read a book that you knew was rushed? You just knew it. And have you seen debut authors fall into the hype trap? And what books do you think are masterfully written because they took their sweet time? I love adding books to my TBR. Drop your thoughts below. And remember, good art ages well because it was never afraid of taking its time. Now go drink some water and tell an author you appreciate their craft, and maybe reread a slow burn fantasy that took 6 years to write, because I promise it hits different. And I will see you guys next time. Bye.